and welcome back to my garden. Today, I think the title is going to tell you what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm doing a shelving unit here for plants. This is something I sketched up recently, and the reason being is because this year I'm going to try to do more with my deck than I have previous years, and there's a number of reasons for this. I walk by this deck all the time. Now, generally during the summertime, I don't use the deck, and the reason being is because the afternoon sun is absolutely brutal. It can cook you, roast you, and from basically noonish right until about 7 o'clock in the evening, this deck is in full sunlight. Now I could get an umbrella. The problem being is I'm on coastal eastern North Carolina, and we can get 60-mile-per-hour winds on a clear, beautiful day. But I would like to get more use out of the deck because I can sit back here in the morning and in the evening after the sun goes down. So it would just be a little nicer when I come out of my house to see some nicer things back here, as opposed to it just being sort of a dumping ground, which it kind of is right now. For those of you in the know, this is my Earth Angel Rose. I recently repotted it, tried to save it from a situation that I put it into with some root rot. Right here beneath me is a mint, peppermint I believe, or spearmint. Spearmint. It has been in the same pot now for 4 years. 5 years maybe, going on 5 years I think. I have done absolutely nothing with it, and every year it just bounces back from its dead looking state. This year I am going to take it out of the pot. I'm going to repot it, I believe, and then I'll put the pot either back here on the deck, maybe it's back in the same location or somewhere else in the garden. I think it's in shot here. I have this little table here. Once upon a time it held up one of my water barrels, but I wasn't keen on having rotting wood holding up my water barrel, so I brought it up here on the deck, and I'm now using it for some plants. I have 3 hellebores, and I have a pot of daffodils which have yet to bloom. And then right here in front of me I have my little girl Sophie, who insists on standing out here in the sun. Yes, you do, instead of going inside in the shade. I actually have my back door open, so anyways, but I thought right here would be a nice place to put some more plants that you would be able to see that would get plenty of sunlight during the daytime, so they'd be very happy, and I could see them when I'm walking into the house. You know, they'd be up here on the deck. I just thought it'd be something nice, as opposed to what you just saw here a second ago, which was my old cold frame. I'm gonna put the shelving unit here. I think I'm gonna maybe even have some potted geraniums up here. Not sure yet. Maybe some lavender. Any other small potted plants that I'd like to have up here displayed somehow without taking up too large of a footprint. Yeah, that's what I'm going with. So let's stop talking and let's just get this thing fully finished, assembled. As you probably saw in the beginning of the video, I was putting together the legs here, and this entire thing is made out of 2x4s. Did that for simplicity and for strength. This is all pressure treated wood. You don't have to use pressure treated wood. You can go out and get yourself some cedar if you want. You can do, I'm not a wood expert, but you can probably do a bunch of other different types of woods. The middle bars here, they are 12 inches long. By the way, all the plans will be up on my website. You'll see them under the projects list, and I'll try to remember on the projects page, and I'll try to remember to leave a link below in the description. But this is 12 inches. This is 2 foot. You can make this a little higher. You can make this a little wider if you want. The idea for this was to be as simple as possible and yet as flexible as possible. You can make this shorter. You can make this 3 feet, 2 feet. If I was making this a 3-foot setup or a 2-foot setup, what I would simply do is just leave out the middle set of legs. But since I'm going a 4-foot span and I plan on putting heavy terracotta pots on this filled with soil and plants, I thought better safe than sorry. I don't want any sagging going on after a couple of years maybe. First year would probably be fine, but the second or third year might start sagging a bit. The other thing which you probably saw me do in the beginning, hopefully in the beginning of this video, is put on these little rubber feet, and basically that's to keep the 2x4s themselves off of the deck. We get very humid here in eastern North Carolina, and we can get a lot of rain, and humidity and rain and all that moisture will just help rot those feet away if they're in constant contact with any surface, whether it be the deck, bricks, etc. The water will have no place to go if it's in direct contact. So I put these little feet on with the hopes that after a rain, once things start drying out, moisture will be able to escape the wood, and these will last just a little bit longer. It's my plan. FYI, all of this is assembled with exterior screws. You're definitely going to want to do this with exterior screws if it's going to be out in the weather. If you use something like a wood screw, a regular wood screw, or a sheetrock screw, they're going to rust and rot away. So you definitely want some sort of exterior grade screw. Alrighty, let's get this thing put together. I tried to, when I built this or designed this, I tried to keep everything as simple as possible. 2 foot high, 4 foot wide, simple cuts. I'm not going 2 5/8 or 16ths or any of that nonsense. Again, trying to keep this as simple as possible. If you wanted, you can make this a little higher. You could, I wouldn't go any shorter than 2 foot because the bottom shelf is not going to have that much clearance to the top shelf. But the bottom shelf, for me, I'm thinking is going to be perfect for smaller plants, plants in smaller containers, whereas the bigger top shelf may be obviously good for taller containers, such as this. I believe this is a 10-inch pot right here. And to assemble the frame and the top and the bottom, I'm using 3-inch screws. And the one thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pre-drill your holes. And what I just did real quick off camera was I pre-drilled the holes on both ends. So then the next thing you want to do is just make sure that you're flush with the end, and then you're tied up against the edge, and that should get you relatively-ish square. I'm not 100% concerned about being perfectly square or level or even. This is all very cheap, wet, twisted, splintered 2x4s from my local big box Lowe's store. If you're a better woodworker than me and you care about things being perfectly square and level and even, then you can make sure that they are, and then screw everything together. The next thing I'm going to do is the other side. I'm not going to worry about the middle yet. I'm going to do the other side again, trying to get it as tight as to this edge board and as close as the end, as flush to the end as possible. And then I'll do the same thing on the opposite side. All right, so I've got my 2 ends done. The next thing I want to do is space the middle board. And really, I'm just going to do that by eye. If you want, you can measure it out. I don't remember what the exact gap is. Might be ½ inch between the boards. Okay, the ends are done. Now for the middle legs, I simply turn around and marked a 2 foot mark in between the boards, making sure they're 4 foot. Lined up the legs here, making sure it's centered. And then I pre-drilled my holes for my screws and then put in screws. Now I'm using 2 screws per board on each space. So there's, for the first board here, there's 2 at that end, 2 in the middle, and 2 in the other side. If you choose, you could use less screws. I think it would still be fine if you had 2 screws on one end, 2 screws on the other end, and maybe 1 screw in the middle. This is really just going to support plants, but if you build it sturdy enough, who knows? You could sit on it, which I may at the end. All right, let's get the top boards on. Same thing as before, as the bottom. I'm going to try to get these boards as close to flush with the side and the back as possible. And my hope is that once I screw everything together and everything gets pulled together, it's relatively-ish square. If you're a good woodworker and you're better at this than I am, please leave those comments below and leave maybe a helpful tip or 2. Of course, don't forget to pre-drill your holes. I don't know if I mentioned that. I'll mention it again. It just prevents the wood from splitting on you. And this way you have a slightly nicer look. Now, I don't know if this is showing up on camera, but the wood here is not exactly flush. And that's because this leg is bending in a bit. So these are the correct length, but this leg is bending in a bit. So all we're going to do is just push it out a little bit. Again, trying to make everything nice, flush, tight. Then drill your screws in, and you can see I have these pre-drilled, ready to go. Now for this side, this one I pull in a little bit. Now for the middle, I've marked my halfway point in the wood here, so I know this is 2 foot right here, and this leg pretty much matches up, which is pretty nice. I had a pencil and it fell down. Often happens. So I'm just going to use a nail to mark my 2 foot mark. Pull the leg slightly this way. I'm probably about 220, 210. This is pretty sturdy. So you could use this also as a bench if you wanted to. So there you go. Simple potting shelf made out of 2x4s. This was a total of 6 2x4s with 6 feet left over that you could use for other projects if you want. Again, I'll leave a drawing up for this bench on my website, growinggrainfinger.com. If you guys think I missed anything, forgot something, should have mentioned something, have suggestions to make this a little better and or simpler, please leave those comments below. With the boards being spaced here, there's room for drainage, and that's why I only made it so deep. I didn't want to make it bigger or deeper because then it would be eating up more space. You could if you wanted to though. If you wanted to, you literally just have to buy more wood to expand this, make it deeper. If you wanted to have plenty of plants deep, I just wanted sort of single staging, as it were, for these plants. Here's my rough, sad looking hellebore, which didn't flower this year, but that's probably because I replanted it, I believe, last fall. So, but it's got new growth on it, which I'm happy with. Here's my aloe, and then there's a lavender. I could swap the plants around. I could put the small ones in the bottom. I could put big ones on top. I'm going to try to be growing some more plants in containers this year. And again, maybe I'll put my geraniums up here, and once they start flowering, I think they're like pink. Once they start flowering, it'll be something pretty nice to see as you're coming or going from the house. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them below. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, click that bell icon to be notified when I do post a new video. Thank you to all the new subscribers. We've gotten a bunch of new subscribers over the past month or so. Please tell your friends, families, loved ones, grumpy old guy across the street about this channel. I'm building a garden here in eastern North Carolina, growing zone 8B. And I think that's about all I got for today. I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.